Welcome back to The Full View, and we've been bringing you in this hour political reaction to the power crisis. That continues, and we're joined now by the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe. Great to have you with us in studio. Mr. Mabe, the EFF is calling for the president to resign. Different parties are taking different stances on this. But increasingly, the ANC is being spoken about, not just the executive, not just government, but the ANC throughout decades. The DA saying Luthuli House is the scene of the crime. Your response to that?
Evening to your viewers, and compliments to many of them that we have not entered their homes this year. We share in the concerns of the millions of households in our country and corporate South Africa. We feel the pain and pinch that is being felt by every other South African who's affected by load shedding. We are with the people of this country. They need to understand that we are as concerned as they are. But as a responsible party, we said that there are things that we need to undertake to make sure that in leading the conversation, we do so in a manner, in a way that facilitate a long-lasting solution to the ongoing problem. What did we do? Just this past Sunday, our national officials have met, and in that meeting took a view that the president should not be traveling out to Davos for the World Economic Forum. He should actually commit and dedicate his time towards dealing with this problem.
Can I just stop you there, because some are saying that's a PR stunt. I mean, he would have been grilled at Davos about the energy crisis anyway. He would have had to face international investors, international news agencies, and the whole thing just would have become bigger.
Well, maybe just to take a few steps back. On Friday, when I accompanied our Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, to visit the home of the late Dr. Freni Jinwala. Outside the family home, the Secretary General had already indicated to those media outlets that were there that they will, as part of the work that they do when they meet this past Sunday, also look at the things that need to be undertaken by our president. Part of that decision, which was not a PR decision, part of that decision was to make sure that the president is in the country, facilitate meetings with stakeholders, and there has been some outcomes. There's been some outcomes that we have seen. We have been able to move out of the stage 6 load shedding. We must at least commend the work, the efforts by our own government. It might not be enough. South Africans are saying much more could be done. To make sure that
celebrate going from stage 6 to stage 4.
It's not about celebrating.
The economy is still crumbling before our eyes.
We are noting the interventions that they are making, because when you deal with a crisis situation like the one that we are facing, you have got to take a constructive stand. What are the things that need to happen? As a result, in the next week, well, we are expecting the president to make some announcement well within this week on government's efforts to deal with the problem itself. The ANC, through the Secretary General's office, will lead the conversation next week. It will invite a number of energy experts, not just people who are going to make rhetorical statements. We want to involve South Africans who are in the know, in a conversation that says what needs to be done, so that the things that they come up with, which are practical, which are tested, when we go to our own Lekgotla, the sort of program that we develop is one that is guided by science, one that is guided by what is realistic. Because we understand. So
shouldn't you have done this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the predictions were that we would have demand outstripping supply?
Well, we have done some work. We did not just stand on the wayside and fold our arms. There were a number of things that affected the developmental trajectory that we needed to drive, the manner in which some of these SOEs were being managed and all of that. But we are here now. What is required now is decisiveness. Look at what we are saying coming out of the 111th anniversary celebration. What is our statement? We have declared this year the year of decisive action. And we said we must advance people's interest and renew our own movement.
Okay, so were we confused when months ago the president cancelled the trip overseas and got up and said we're dealing with this crisis decisively? Were we all confused? Was that not decisive action? Have you called your president in and said, okay, there were promises made then. What's happened around cutting the red tape? We have a red tape cutter in government. What is going on? Are you calling your deployees and saying what is happening? Renewable projects were announced. There are delays. Are you asking your deployees, give us a list of what's been done, how quickly it's being done, what are the holdups?
Well, there are a number of things that have been happening. Of course, the president of the ANC, together with the relevant cadres who are deployed in the specific departments, have been briefing the leadership of the ANC. To a point where even last year, at one point, we had even convened, that is just under the 54th National Executive Committee Collective, who had convened a number of special National Executive Committee meetings to be able to zoom into this. Understand this, because we are activists ourselves, those that are in the engineering mold, having to deal with this, have now got to up what has been happening now, to be able to then brief us in a manner and way that we are able to predict. We must be able, the people of South Africa want us to say, this problem is being dealt with in this way. We hope that by this time, we'll have effectively and decisively dealt with the notion of load shedding. Or brace yourself for this kind of a situation. That is what the people of South Africa want.
Has the ANC ever apologized? Have you ever called your deployees really to account? Have you accounted to South Africans for what has not been done for years? Let's start in 1998, when government was told that new energy had to be procured in 1999. For almost 10 years, nothing was done. So that was the genesis. Has there ever been a reckoning going back to that? And then we can go through the decades when things were not done. And the ANC was, it seems, sitting on the sidelines.
Well, the ANC, even through its own manifesto that details its own promises to citizens when it goes to elections, the ANC first acknowledges the things that would not have been done, whether it's in the energy space, whether it's in the infrastructure build space. We acknowledge all of those things, but then put forward a program and a plan. Say, these are the things that we are going to be doing. The conversation that the Office of the Secretary General will be leading in the next week, just at the back of what the President would have spoken about, will bring on board experts in the energy space who will be able to then guide us, who will then be able to say to us, these are the practical steps that you need to be taking. These are the things that you need to do. We know that there is also the question of transitioning, which is, again, another area of interest as we are dealing with the issues of energy security as well. Say, okay, you can transition in this way, but you can still be able to attend to the issues of energy generation, to the security of energy supply to the general citizens and populace in this way.
Have you spoken to your deployees? That's all good and well, but we've had ministers who should be on top of this, who should have been on top of this for years. There's that old saying, fiddling while Rome burns. We've had people in the executive seemingly fighting about the crisis rather than addressing it. We had Minister Gordhan, he was defending Eskom at some stage, suggesting that more energy capacity was needed. That is Gwede Mantashe's domain. Minister Mantashe then saying Eskom is trying to overthrow the state. So the blame game went on. Again, have you ever called in your deployees and said, how can you be behaving like this in the midst of a crisis? What's happening?
Well, we have engaged our deployees. Even the very notion of parceling out the Eskom into 3 units, one that deals with transmission, one that deals with generation, and one that, you see, all those, the 3 components.
Which should have been done by now, I think, according to the initial plan. We're still waiting on that as well.
Well, you are dealing with the question of load shedding. At the same time that you deal with the question of load shedding, what does this mean? It means you have to increase on your generation capacity. It means you have to increase on your transmission capacity. All of these things are interconnected. While you deal with those, you have to then say, where do I put my focus? So the focus that South Africans are interested in now, while we said you can parcel this into the different 3 units to be able to maximize and make sure that you boost in the efficiencies of the power generator, there are also immediate things that you have got to be addressing. So we said, let us deal with first things first.
Yeah. But Mr. Mabe, all good and well. We're running out of time. My question was, have you ever called in your deployees, your president or your ministers, and said, why are we in this mess as the ANC? Have you ever done that? Well,
we do. I mean, we engage with our comrades all the time. That's why the efficacy or efficiency of parceling out Eskom into the 3 units that must do generation, that must do transmission, and all of that. It's because you are saying, okay, what is it that the Department of Public Enterprises is supposed to be doing? What is it that Eskom, what is it that the Department of Energy is supposed to be doing? And how can we bring that which the Department of Energy is supposed to be doing and that which the Department of Public Enterprise is supposed to be doing together? How do we harmonize all of this and be able to make sure that we provide services to the people of this country in a manner that is predictable, in a manner that they could be able to plan, and all of that? So energy is an important source of economic growth and economic development. So the ANC is not going to fold its arms and say, oh, okay, let it just go on like that. No, we are entering the conversation. We are even trying to invite and mobilize as many stakeholders as possible, because we have always carried a view that when we all work together as one, even as political parties, we'll be able to come up with solutions. Unfortunately, other political parties have decided to use what is a crisis facing the nation for purposes of electioneering. When they do that, it does not assist us find a solution. South Africans out there want us to come up with working solutions. They want us to provide leadership.
We'll look out for the announcements in the next week that you say are coming up. We'll continue to bring you political reaction to this crisis. That was the ANC's Pule Mabe.